Showcased right here, we have a selection of FME meat mixers ranging from our FMM10 to these two, FME10 and the FME10T. T stands for turn, as not only does it mix meat perfectly well, it makes it a lot easier to tip it over and empty it out. And as you can see behind me, the rest of the lineup in the series, ranging from the FME 30, the 30T, the FME 40, the 40T, and the biggest one in the series, the FME 60 and the 60T. And these two are special because they come with two paddles, a double axis series, the FMD 30 and the FMD 20. And we also carry an FMD 40, which is not in the picture right now, unfortunately, but that's okay because it's all here in the show. So to move further along now, I would love to show off and demonstrate some of the key features these machines have, starting with the FMM10. Here we have the FMM10 in all its glory. And like I said, it's not much to it other than the handle itself. And to install it, all we need to do is place the handle on the square drive on the side right here. And it will be easy to place onto it because, like I said, it's a square drive. Just like that. And to lock it on, we need one of these butterfly screws. Simply just twist it on and screw it in place. Now we're ready to go. And here's how it looks on the inside. And this is the manual version of the FMEs. So as you turn, so will the paddle axis. Pretty simple, huh? That's quite literally all there is to the FMM10. As I said, it's manual, simple, and it's nice. We can move on to taking it apart, and I'll show you how for cleaning and maintenance. We can start by taking off the lid and removing the handle. Same way we installed it. We unscrew the butterfly screw off, loosening the handle for us. And we can just place that aside right there. Now, we can move on to the inside, which all it is two more butterfly screws on each side of the paddle axis, screwed on to the shafts on each side. So let's remove them. Screw number one, screw number two. So after we get the screws off, we can pretty much start on this side where the drive shaft's on. And this comes off easily. You'd want to hold the paddle straight in case it gets a little crooked and so it doesn't fall in the tank. Simple as that. Now, for this side, it'll pretty much be the same process, only without the drive shaft. So this might take a little bit of pull power. All right, like so. So after all is said and done, this is what the drive shafts look like. Here's the one with the square shaft on the end, and here's the one on the opposite end. All right, and here are the two gaskets. Pretty much, they go in between the bearings and the drive shaft themselves, and here are the bearings, which allows the paddle and the drive shaft to move freely from each other. And all of those are sandwiched in between the tank, pretty much right here. right there. Yep. And here is the bare tank itself. And these two fins are, well, they're just there so meat or product or whatever you are doing with the mixer doesn't get stuck to the tank itself. And here is the paddle itself, pretty much. And that's where the drive shafts enter, on this machine itself, at least, because the other meat mixers are gear driven and have a separate, different drive shaft, pretty much. Those have a gear shaft. And I'll demonstrate what those look like in the next upcoming clips after this demonstration. Now we continue on by putting it all back together. And we start doing that by doing the opposite of what we did before, taking it apart. So we should start with the gasket right here. And make sure when putting the gasket in, the lip is facing inward into the tank itself. And it should sit flush into this chamber right here, like so. Then we start afterwards with the bearing. And that should go into the little chamber right here, easily like so. Flush. Now we do the other side as well. Grab the gasket, make sure the lip is facing inward, place it flush, grab the bearing, there we go. And we continue by grabbing the paddle, because remember, we don't start with the gear shafts because the gear shafts go into the paddle itself. And we start by pretty much placing it in where the hole would be in the tank. We grab the gear shaft, not the gear shaft, but the shaft itself, the one with the square drive, the side with the label, place it here. Like so. And the opposite end we place right here. Like so. And we can just continue on by placing the butterfly screws back onto the paddles to lock it in pretty much. All right, first one is done, and we move on to the second one. All right, second one done. Now we can move on by placing the lid and the handle with the butterfly screw in place. And we're ready to go again. So now that I've showcased everything for the FMM out on the table, we can move on to the next one in line, the FME 10. So as we can see, there's not much to it when it comes to the FMM 10. Let's move on to the FME 10. The FME 10, moving one tier above, now includes a gearbox, which I'll explain what it's for right here. Now, here's where things get different and interesting. And what I mean is that the FME 10 introduces a gearbox, which is included in all our FME throughout the series. The FMM is only an exclusion because it's the manual one, and so are the FMD20, the FMD30, the FMD40. So now, enough about those. Let's get back to the FME 10. Quick turnaround of what the machine looks like. Some of the key differences you can notice off the bat, obviously, is the gearbox on the side, but also the feet, which is customizable to different lengths because As I said, this has a gearbox, which is attachable to our TC motor. The TC motor is the next in line for the video series we're going to introduce in the next episode. So let's forget about that for now, and let's get back to this. Opening up the FME 10, you can see paddle is pretty similar to the FMM 10, but a little bit different. Key difference being the gear shaft does not go into the paddle itself. It's a little slit, and you can slide the paddle right onto the gear shaft. And as you can see right here, pretty easy to turn with the gearbox itself. This assembly is pretty much the same as the FMM 10. Only difference is it has a gearbox. So don't worry, I'll show you how to take it apart. First, we start by taking the handle off, same as last time. Like so. Put that to the side. We can take off the lid too. Put this to the side. Afterwards, we start by taking off the paddle inside. And we start by removing the butterfly screws on either side, like last time. Screw number 1. Screw number 2. One key difference about the regular series compared to the manual is, like I said, the gear shaft does not go into the paddle itself. You can slide the paddle off pretty easily, like so. Now we can move on by taking off the gear shaft. We start doing that by removing all 4 screws, one on each corner of the gearbox itself. One, 2, 3, and 4. So behold, the gearbox itself. You can pry it off. Carefully and done. That's what the inside should look like. So let's just put this off to the side for now. This right here is the big gear itself. Put this off to the side. And this is the drive shaft itself. And as I mentioned before, it slides right into the paddle. Or rather, the paddle slides right into the drive shaft. Put this off to the side too. And as you see, there are 2 bearings, same as the FMM 10, but there's more for the gearbox itself. Now, back to the actual gearbox itself. Pretty much you see 1 bearing, and underneath this drive shaft right here, we have the second bearing, which is attached to the drive shaft itself. There's a drive key, the square drive key pretty much, and this is the tiny small gear. Put this back, so we don't need to take it out. Should be fine. Let's put this off to the side. Let's get back to the tape. Pretty much, let's get back right here on this side. Here is the other drive shaft, which should slide on the other side, like so. Same as before, same elements. You have the gasket and you have the bearing itself. We can leave those on. Ooh, having a little trouble here. There we go. bearing was so new, it was a little tight and I had trouble with it. As we see, it's all together now. The base. As for the feet right here, they're removable as well. That's what it looks like. It's one of the feet. Comes with a foot and 2 nuts. All right, let's put this back on. Gotta make sure it's the same length as the other feet. There we go, like so. Nice and tight. Now, to put it all back together, shouldn't be too hard. Pretty much the same like last time, except with new parts. And I'll show you how. Start by grabbing the drive shaft from the gearbox itself. Place it back into the tank. There's a little Allen key right here, pretty much to hold the gear itself into place. And there's a notch on the gear itself. The notch side, you place it onto pretty much the drive key. Make sure it's on there. And gearbox itself. There are nubs on each of the drive shafts to lock in with the bearings itself, which should make everything a lot more easier when putting it back together. All right. And then all we need to do is place each one of the screws on each corner. We start with number 1. And then number 2. I like to place them in a crisscross pattern. So we'll start right here for number 2. Then we get number 3. Place it on the opposite side right here on the bottom. Now, last with number 4, which should be right here on top. And with all those out the way now, we can start with the other side. Simply placing the drive shaft inside the tank, like so. We grab the paddle and slide it into the tank onto the drive shafts. Pretty much like so. And then we grab the butterfly screw, number 1. And number 2. Locking both sides in, making sure that nothing is loose. Place the lid back on. Place the handle back on. Lock it in. Like so. Now you're ready to go. Here's what that would look like inside. Last but not least, in our FME lineup, we have the T series, whereas in the T stands for tilt. Here we have an FME 10T, where I will now demonstrate on how to properly use this. And one last thing before we dive in, there's nothing scary when it comes to these machines because there's not a whole lot to it. The only attachment is quite literally the handle itself and the machine itself. So let's get back into it. Here is the most popular model in the lineup, the T series. Pretty much the same as the standard other two, along with the gearbox. except only key difference is that this can tilt. And by unlocking these two locks, one right here and on the other side, now present to you a tilting meat mixer. Great for whatever mixing needs you have. Pretty much you can mix whatever you have, and let's say it's too heavy to get out the tank. Tilt it, pull it out. Or let's say you're having trouble cleaning it. You can tilt it and clean it out pretty much the same way. So now I'm not going to show you anything you haven't seen already, so we'll take part with not taking it apart. And we can move on pretty much with the rest of the show. And to lock it back into place, all you'd have to do is pull this little lock right here on this side inward, pretty much to the right. There are arrows that indicate where to go. One side that says tight and the other side that says loose. And on this side, you'd have to go up. Again, same scenario. One side says loose, the other side says tight. Once they're both tight, ready to rock and roll. Pretty much mix whatever you have. So with everything showcased and demonstrated and out the way, I hope to have taught each and every one of you on how to fix, how to clean, and how to maintain the FME meat mixer. As we can see, or as we saw today rather, it's not a whole lot to it. It's not much to it. There's a lot you can do with them. And it's a great machine and product overall. And I hope you enjoy your time here today. Stay tuned for next time where things get a little bit more messy. We're talking tenderizers and grinders.